We're what you would call up north. So it was not a case of not having.
In the early to mid 20th century, the African American experience in Delaware was much different than it is today. A border state during the Civil War, Delaware remained in the Union, but with Confederate sympathies, and continued to practice slavery. Finally ratifying the 13th Amendment in 1901, Delaware remained openly segregated well into the 1950s. Racist practices varied across the state, creating different life experiences for African Americans, depending on where they lived. Growing up in the large black community on the east side of Wilmington, young Aretha Morton encountered little prejudice.
It was just an easy place to be. And the reason why I say that is we really didn't have to go outside of the east side. We had African American doctors. We had our own African American cab company. We had our own African American dentist. We had our own African American grocery store. We didn't have to worry about going to the movies, and sitting in the black side or the white side or whatever, because we had our own. My dad was from Statesville, North Carolina, and upon coming here, he met my mother, who was still in high school. Today, they might say I was one of those little rich kids, because my clothes was coming out of Braunsteins and Arthurs. So I was not one of those kids that was without. We had the Y at 10th. It had its own bowling alley. I won my first amateur singing contest at that Y. We played jump rope, in front of the house. We played jacks. We rode our bicycles. We had no problem with being who we were. Our school was African American. During that time, they were numbered, number 5, number 20, number 29, and then from there to Howard High School. Our teachers were interested in us. They enjoyed teaching us, and we, as a result, enjoyed learning. We were always taught education was the key. And so if education was the key, then we could do just about anything we wanted to do. And keep in mind, we all lived in the same neighborhood. So some of our teachers lived right across the street. That's why we could never get away with anything. There was Allied Kid at 11th and Poplar. That was a place where most African Americans in our area, that's where they worked. They worked DuPont. It was a bunch of African Americans that worked for DuPont. They were maids and butlers and all that sort of thing. My mother became one of the first females to have her own beauty shop. She went to Dora S. Lee Beauty School, graduated, and found a spot at first she did it in her home. She did hair in her home. And then my stepfather, he told her, he said, well, how about, getting your own shop? So she had her own shop. And so we grew up among teachers. We grew up among doctors that look like us. We grew up among lawyers that look like us. We had people that we could look up to that gave us the incentive to want to be like them.